Do you believe in time portals? What if we told you right now that a visitor from the year 2290 has released 10 classified files that prove they actually exist? If you're thinking that time travel is impossible and that there must be a logical explanation for everything, then we're really curious to see how you explain these 10 shocking cases. These aren't just stories or legends. According to the mysterious traveler who calls himself Chronos 7, these are real, documented events where time portals opened across human history, allowing people, objects, and even entire groups to slip through the fabric of time itself. The files he released contain coordinates, photographs, and testimonies that have left researchers completely baffled. So, let's jump straight into the first file, and this one will change everything you thought you knew about reality. In 1901, two highly respected British academics, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, experienced something while visiting the Palace of Versailles that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They were walking through the gardens on a warm August afternoon when everything suddenly changed. The air grew heavy and still. The colors around them became strangely vivid, yet somehow muted at the same time. And then they saw people dressed in 18th century clothing, walking the grounds as if they belonged there. But here's what makes this absolutely terrifying. According to the files from Chronos 7, these two women didn't just see ghosts or have hallucinations. They actually walked through an active time portal that briefly connected 1901 with 1789, the exact time of the French Revolution. The visitor from 2290 claims this location is a known temporal weak point, and his files contain coordinates that match the exact spot where Moberly and Jourdain stood. Think about this for a moment. These weren't just random tourists or unreliable witnesses. Charlotte Moberly was the principal of St. Hugh's College at Oxford University, and Eleanor Jourdain was the vice principal. Both women were highly educated, respected members of British academia with absolutely no history of making outlandish claims or seeking attention. In fact, they were so disturbed by what happened to them that they kept their experience secret for nearly 10 years before finally publishing their account under pseudonyms in 1911. The details they provided were extremely specific and absolutely chilling. As they walked through the Petit Trianon gardens, they encountered a man wearing a large, dark cloak and a wide-brimmed hat who gave them directions. They saw a woman sketching on the lawn near the palace, wearing an old-fashioned summer dress with a large white hat. The strangest part? Everyone they encountered looked somehow different, almost like they were existing in a slightly different version of reality. The colors were odd, almost dreamlike, and there was an oppressive, eerie silence hanging over everything. Now here's where it gets even stranger. When Moberly and Jourdain returned to Versailles later to retrace their steps, nothing was the same. The paths they had walked on didn't exist. The bridge they had crossed wasn't there. The kiosk where they'd seen the cloaked man had been demolished decades earlier. It was as if they had walked through a completely different version of the palace grounds, one that existed over a century in the past. According to Chronos 7's files, the woman they saw sketching was Marie Antoinette herself, just weeks before the storming of Versailles during the French Revolution. The files claim that on August 10th, specifically the anniversary of when the royal family was arrested, a temporal rift opens in the Petit Trianon gardens that lasts for approximately 47 minutes. During this window, people in our time can literally step into 1789 and see the palace exactly as it was during its final days of royal occupation. But what makes this case absolutely insane is the evidence that came afterward. Historians and researchers who examined Moberly and Jourdain's descriptions found that everything they described, the clothing styles, the layout of the gardens, even the woman sketching by the Trianon, matched historical records from 1789 with disturbing accuracy. They described architectural features and garden arrangements that had been changed or removed by 1901, details they couldn't possibly have known without accessing historical archives that didn't become public until years after their visit. The skeptics, of course, have tried to explain this away. Some say the women saw actors rehearsing for a period play. Others claim it was a folie à deux, a shared delusion between two people. But absolutely no one has been able to explain how they knew about garden features that had been removed over a century earlier, or how they both describe the exact same impossible experience in such precise detail. The files from Chronos 7 go even further. They claim that over 60 other visitors to Versailles between 1901 and 2018 have reported similar experiences, seeing people in 18th century dress, hearing phantom music, and feeling that oppressive silence. The files provide coordinates marking the exact location where the temporal rift opens, and warn that exposure to time portal radiation can cause long-term neurological effects. So, what really happened in those gardens? Did two respected academics actually walk through time itself? Are there specific locations on Earth where the past and present collide? And if Chronos 7's files are accurate, could you accidentally step through a time portal the next time you visit a historical site? A thought that's as fascinating as it is absolutely terrifying. In October of 1943, the United States Navy allegedly conducted a top-secret experiment at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard that accidentally created one of the most powerful and destructive time portals in recorded history. The USS Eldridge, a destroyer escort, was supposedly subjected to an experimental cloaking device designed to make the ship invisible to enemy radar. But according to Chronos 7's files, what the Navy actually created was a massive electromagnetic field that ripped open a hole in space-time itself. Witnesses reported seeing the ship completely disappear in a flash of blue light, only to reappear moments later in Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away. But the truly horrifying part came when crew members were found fused into the metal walls of the ship, their bodies merged with steel, as if they had been caught between dimensions. Some sailors reportedly vanished completely and were never seen again. The files from 2290 contain detailed technical specifications of what went wrong, and the explanation is absolutely chilling. Imagine being a dock worker on that October afternoon, watching a Navy destroyer preparing for what you thought was just another routine test. The project was allegedly based on Einstein's unified field theory, which suggested that electromagnetic fields could be manipulated to bend light and make objects invisible. The Navy wanted to create ships that enemy forces simply couldn't see. Pretty straightforward, right? But according to the files, they had no idea they were playing with forces that could literally tear holes in the fabric of reality itself. The experiment reportedly took place on October 28, 1943. Massive electromagnetic generators were installed on the USS Eldridge, and when they powered up the system, witnesses on nearby ships and the dock described an intense green-blue glow surrounding the entire vessel. The air around the ship began to shimmer and distort, like heat waves rising from hot pavement, but 1,000 times more intense. Then, in an instant, the ship vanished. Not faded, not became transparent, but completely disappeared as if it had never existed. Witnesses reported a massive displacement of water where the ship had been, creating waves that rocked nearby vessels. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Approximately 10 minutes later, sailors at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia, over 200 miles away, reported seeing the USS Eldridge materialize in their harbor for several minutes before vanishing again and reappearing back in Philadelphia. Now, think about what happened to the crew. According to multiple testimonies from sailors who claim to have been aboard during the experiment, the experience was beyond horrific. Some men were found embedded in the steel deck and bulkheads of the ship, their bodies molecularly fused with the metal, as if they had been teleported while the matter of the ship was still solidifying around them. Others suffered severe mental trauma, describing feeling like they were existing in multiple places at once, or seeing terrifying glimpses of other times and dimensions during the displacement. Chronos 7's files provide technical analysis that's extremely creepy. According to the future visitor, the electromagnetic field didn't just create invisibility, it generated what scientists in the 23rd century call a resonance cascade. This is when electromagnetic frequencies synchronize in a way that destabilizes the quantum foam of space-time itself. Essentially, the Navy accidentally created the exact conditions needed to punch a hole through the dimensional barrier, opening a portal not just through space, but through time as well. The files claim that 5 crew members vanished during the experiment and were never found, but according to Chronos 7, they weren't killed. They were displaced in time, emerging at different points in history. The files allegedly contain reports of sailors matching their descriptions appearing in different time periods, from colonial America to the distant future, all still wearing their 1943 Navy uniforms and completely disoriented. The official Navy position? The Philadelphia experiment never happened. They claim it's an urban legend, a hoax that grew out of misunderstood degaussing experiments. But here's what absolutely no one can explain. Why did multiple witnesses from different locations all describe seeing the same impossible event? Why did several crew members come forward with identical stories despite having no contact with each other? So, what really happened on October 28, 1943? Did the Navy accidentally create a time portal that scattered sailors across history? Are there still displaced crew members lost somewhere in time, trying to find their way home? And if Chronos Seven's files are accurate, could the technology that destroyed those men's lives be the same technology that eventually leads to the Cascade event? A possibility that's as terrifying as it is fascinating. One of the most famous and controversial time portal cases involves a man named Rudolph Fentz, who appeared in Times Square, New York City, in June of 1950, wearing 19th century clothing and carrying obsolete currency. According to police reports and the files from Chronos 7, this man materialized out of nowhere in the middle of heavy traffic and was immediately struck and killed by a taxi. When investigators examined his body and belongings, they found coins from the 1870s, business cards with an address that no longer existed, and a letter dated 1876. But the most shocking discovery came when they checked missing persons records from the late 1800s. They found a Rudolph Fentz who had disappeared without a trace in 1876 at the age of 29, matching the approximate age of the man killed in 1950. The files from the future claim this was a portal displacement event, where Fentz walked through an unstable time rift in 1876 and emerged 74 years later into a world he could never comprehend. The coordinates provided in the files point to a specific location in Manhattan where temporal anomalies continue to this day. Picture Times Square on a busy June evening in 1950. Cars honking, people rushing to theaters and restaurants, the electric glow of neon signs illuminating the streets. Then suddenly, witnesses reported seeing a man appear literally out of thin air in the middle of the intersection, not walking from the sidewalk, not stepping out from between cars, but materializing as if he'd been dropped there by invisible hands. He looked around in absolute terror, completely disoriented, his eyes wide with confusion and fear. The man was dressed in clothes that looked like they belonged in a museum. He wore mutton chop sideburns, a Victorian-style coat with a high collar, and button-up shoes that hadn't been fashionable since the 1800s. In his hand, he clutched a small leather satchel. Witnesses said he seemed frozen with shock, staring at the automobiles and electric lights as if he'd never seen such things before. Then, before anyone could reach him, a taxi struck him, and he died almost instantly. Now, here's where it gets absolutely insane. When police investigated, they found his identification papers showed his name as Rudolph Fentz, with an address on Fifth Avenue. But when officers went to that address, they discovered it hadn't existed as a residence since the 1880s. The building had been demolished decades earlier. Inside his satchel, they found copper and silver coins dated 1876, all in mint condition, as if they'd just been minted. There were business cards for a livery stable, a receipt for the care of horses, and a handwritten letter dated June 1876. Think about this for a moment. The letter was 74 years old, but it looked brand new. The paper wasn't yellowed or brittle. The ink wasn't faded. It was as if Rudolph Fentz had written it that very morning, even though the date said 1876. But then came the discovery that sent chills down everyone's spine. A detective named Hubert Ream decided to dig deeper into missing persons records from the late 19th century. After weeks of searching through dusty archives, he found it. A missing person report filed in 1876 for a man named Rudolph Fentz, age 29, who had left his home for an evening walk and never returned. The physical description matched perfectly. The address listed was the same Fifth Avenue location found on the dead man's identification. According to Chronos Seven's files, Fentz walked directly into an unstable time portal while strolling through Manhattan in 1876. The portal was what they call a one-way temporal displacement field, meaning Fentz was pulled forward in time but could never return. The files claim that for Fentz, absolutely no time had passed. One moment he was walking down a gaslit street in 1876, and the next instant he was standing in the blinding chaos of 1950 Times Square, surrounded by machines and lights beyond his comprehension. The skeptics say this whole story is fiction, that it originated from a science fiction story published in the 1950s. But here's what absolutely no one can explain. Why do multiple witnesses from that night still insist they saw a man appear out of nowhere? Why did some newspapers report the incident before any science fiction story about it was published? And why do Chronos Seven's files contain photographs of the actual police report, which should have been destroyed or lost decades ago? So, what really happened to Rudolf Fentz? Did he truly walk through a time portal and emerge 74 years in his own future? Are there specific locations in Manhattan where time itself becomes unstable? And if someone from 1876 could accidentally step into 1950, could we accidentally step into the year 2124? A thought that's extremely creepy and absolutely fascinating at the same time. Before we continue, here's a quick question for you. If you could walk through a time portal right now, which year would you travel to? Go ahead and drop the year down in the comments. We're really curious to see your answers. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Between 1971 and 1983, a secret government facility at Camp Hero in Montauk, New York, allegedly conducted experiments that make the Philadelphia experiment look tame by comparison. According to whistleblower testimonies and Chronos Seven's explosive files, the Montauk project successfully created stable, controllable time portals using advanced psychic amplification technology and electromagnetic manipulation. The files claim that researchers could open doorways to specific points in time and actually send people through them. Former workers described seeing time doors that looked like shimmering vertical pools of liquid light, beyond which you could see different time periods as clearly as looking through a window. Some testimonies speak of children being sent through these portals to different eras for training or experimentation. The visitor from 2290 claims in his files that the Montauk project was actually reverse engineering technology from a time portal device that would be invented in 2147, creating a causality loop that still affects our timeline today. The coordinates provided point to specific locations at Camp Hero where temporal anomalies can still be detected, and the technical specifications described in the files are so advanced that modern physicists can barely comprehend them. Camp Hero was officially an Air Force station that closed down in 1969. It sat on the eastern tip of Long Island, surrounded by beaches and seemingly abandoned. But according to multiple witnesses, the facility never really shut down. Think about this. While the public believed the base was decommissioned, workers claim that underground levels were being constructed and expanded, going several stories deep beneath the surface. These underground facilities allegedly housed technology so advanced that it wouldn't be matched by mainstream science for another 100 years. The project supposedly began as an extension of the Philadelphia experiment, with scientists determined to master what had gone so catastrophically wrong in 1943. But this time, they had something the Navy never had: psychically gifted individuals who could allegedly manipulate electromagnetic fields with their minds. One of the most frequently mentioned names in the testimonies is Preston Nichols, an electrical engineer who claimed to have worked on the project and later recovered suppressed memories of his involvement. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. According to Nichols and other whistleblowers, researchers discovered that certain individuals with enhanced psychic abilities could be placed in a specially designed chair surrounded by electromagnetic coils. When the system was activated, these psychics could project their consciousness through time, essentially creating a mental bridge to different eras. But then the scientists took it further. They found that by amplifying the psychic signal with massive amounts of electromagnetic energy, they could actually open physical portals, doorways you could walk through. Witnesses describe the time doors as approximately 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide, appearing as shimmering curtains of light that rippled like water. But instead of reflecting your image, you could see through them to another time and place. Some testimonies claim researchers opened portals to ancient Egypt, to the year 6000 AD, and even to alternate timelines where history had unfolded differently. Imagine standing in an underground bunker in 1982 and looking through a window at dinosaurs roaming prehistoric Earth. But the most disturbing claims involve children. Multiple witnesses report that boys between the ages of 10 and 16 were brought to Montauk, chosen for their latent psychic abilities. These children were allegedly trained and then sent through the time portals on missions to different time periods. Some never returned. Others came back traumatized, their memories wiped or suppressed through psychological conditioning. According to Chronos Seven's files, the reason the Montauk project succeeded where others failed was because they were using technology that didn't exist yet in their time. The files claim that in 2147, scientists will perfect time portal technology and somehow send the blueprints backward to 1971. This creates what's called a bootstrap paradox. The technology exists because future scientists sent it to the past, but future scientists only had it because they received it from themselves. Absolutely mind-bending. The project allegedly ended abruptly in August of 1983 when something went catastrophically wrong. Witnesses claim a portal opened that couldn't be closed, and something came through from another dimension. The facility was supposedly destroyed, though the official story was simply that the base was being decommissioned. Skeptics say the entire Montauk project is science fiction, a conspiracy theory with no credible evidence. But here's what absolutely no one can explain. Why do dozens of witnesses who never met each other tell nearly identical stories? Why does Camp Hero still have areas that are mysteriously off limits to the public? And why do people who visit the area report feeling disoriented, experiencing missing time, or seeing strange lights? So, was the Montauk Project real? Did the government actually create functioning time portals in the 1980s? Are there still active portals hidden beneath Camp Hero waiting to be reactivated? And if Chronos 7's files are accurate, are we trapped in a time loop where the future keeps reaching back to create itself? Pretty creepy when you think about it. Off the coast of Japan lies an area known as the Dragon's Triangle or Devil's Sea, where ships and aircraft have been vanishing under mysterious circumstances for centuries. But according to Chronos 7's files, this isn't just a dangerous area of ocean. It's the location of one of Earth's largest and most active natural time portals. The files contain coordinates for a massive underwater temporal vortex that opens and closes in predictable cycles, creating a gateway that can transport vessels into different time periods entirely. In 1952, the Japanese government sent a research vessel called the Kaio Maru to investigate the area after numerous disappearances. The ship vanished with all 31 crew members aboard. According to the files from the future, the Kaio Maru didn't sink. It passed through the time portal and emerged in the year 1763, where it was spotted by a British merchant ship off the coast of Indonesia. The stunned British sailors reported seeing a strange metal vessel with incomprehensible markings before it vanished again in a flash of light. The files claim that objects and people caught in this vortex can bounce through multiple time periods before settling in one, and provide evidence of modern ships being sighted in ancient waters throughout history. The Devil's Sea is located roughly between Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines, forming a triangle similar to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. For over 1,000 years, Japanese fishermen have told stories about this cursed patch of ocean, where boats disappear without sending distress signals, where compasses spin wildly, and where the water itself seems to pulse with an unnatural energy. Think about this. Ancient Japanese texts from the 9th century describe vessels vanishing in flashes of light in this exact location. That's over 1,100 years of documented disappearances. By the early 1950s, the Japanese government had lost 9 ships and hundreds of crew members in the Devil's Sea. They decided enough was enough. In September of 1952, they commissioned the Kaio Maru No. 5, a state-of-the-art research vessel equipped with the latest scientific instruments to investigate what was causing these disappearances. 31 scientists, sailors, and researchers boarded the ship, determined to solve the mystery once and for all. On September 24, 1952, the Kaio Maru sent its final radio transmission. The message was brief and extremely creepy. Danger like nothing before. The instruments are going haywire. We cannot. Then silence. Not a single trace of the ship or its crew was ever found. No wreckage, no oil slicks, no bodies, nothing. It was as if the vessel had been plucked from the ocean by an invisible hand. Now, here's where it gets absolutely insane. According to Chronos Seven's files, historical records from 1763 contain a bizarre entry in the logbook of a British merchant vessel called the HMS Endeavour. The captain wrote about encountering a strange metal ship off the Indonesian coast that appeared out of nowhere in a burst of blue-white light. He described it as being made of iron or steel, painted in colors he'd never seen, with markings in an unknown language. The British sailors tried to hail the vessel, but it vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving the ocean churning as if something massive had just been pulled underwater. The files claim this was the Kaio Maru, displaced nearly 200 years into the past. But then it gets even stranger. Chronos 7's documentation includes reports from 16 different time periods, spanning from the year 800 AD to 2037, all describing encounters with vessels that match the description of modern ships, appearing in eras when they shouldn't exist. Ancient Chinese scrolls mention iron boats that appeared during storms. Medieval European texts describe ghost ships made of metal, all in or near the Devil's Sea region. According to the files from 2290, the Devil's Sea sits directly above a massive underwater geological formation that creates a natural electromagnetic anomaly. When combined with specific tidal forces and solar radiation patterns, this anomaly generates what scientists in the future call a chaotic temporal vortex. Unlike stable portals that connect two specific points in time, chaotic vortexes bounce objects randomly through multiple time periods. Imagine being on the Kaio Maru, suddenly finding yourself in 1763, then getting pulled back into the vortex and thrown into the year 1200. Then forward to 2037, unable to control where or when you end up. Skeptics argue that the Devil's Sea is simply an area prone to underwater volcanic activity and severe weather. But here's what absolutely no one can explain. Why do electromagnetic instruments consistently fail in this specific area? Why have over 100 ships and aircraft disappeared here with no wreckage ever recovered? And how do we explain historical documents describing modern vessels in ancient times? So, what really happened to the Kaio Maru and its 31 crew members? Are they still bouncing through time, appearing briefly in different eras before being pulled back into the vortex? Could there be a natural time portal in our oceans right now, waiting to swallow the next ship that crosses its path? And if Chronos 7's coordinates are accurate, should we be avoiding certain areas of the ocean entirely? A thought that's pretty terrifying for anyone who travels by sea. In 1941, a woman named Clara, visiting the South Fork Bridge in Goldbridge, Canada, had her photograph taken during the bridge's reopening ceremony. The photo shows Clara standing near the bridge with a crowd behind her. Nothing unusual, right? Wrong. When researchers examined this photograph decades later, they noticed something absolutely impossible. Standing in the background is a young man wearing wraparound sunglasses, a printed t-shirt, and holding what appears to be a portable camera, all items that didn't exist in 1941. According to Chronos 7's files, this man was a time traveler who accidentally stepped through a portal while hiking in the same location in the year 2004. The files claim his appearance was captured during what they call a temporal overlap event, where two different time periods briefly occupy the same physical space. The future visitor provides detailed analysis of the photograph, pointing out other anachronisms in the image that researchers missed, including what appears to be a digital watch on another person's wrist and unusual footwear that wouldn't be invented for another 60 years. The files suggest that Goldbridge, Canada, sits on a temporal fault line where these overlaps occur regularly, and provides a list of other photographs from the area showing similar impossible figures. The South Fork Bridge reopening in 1941 was a significant event for the small mining town of Gold Bridge, British Columbia. The original bridge had been crucial for the local economy, and its reconstruction brought the whole community together for a celebration. Dozens of people gathered, dressed in their finest 1940s attire. Women in knee-length dresses and sensible shoes, men in fedoras and wool suits. It was supposed to be a simple commemoration of local progress. Nobody could have imagined that this photograph would become one of the most analyzed images in the study of time anomalies. For decades, the photograph sat in archives, completely unremarkable. But in the early 2000s, when the image was digitized and shared online, people began noticing something extremely creepy about one particular figure in the crowd. Think about this carefully. Look at everyone else in the photo. They're all wearing period-appropriate clothing. Dark suits, long dresses, hats typical of the early 1940s. But this one young man stands out like he just walked out of a modern shopping mall. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. The man is wearing what appears to be a zip-up hoodie or cardigan with a graphic logo on his t-shirt underneath. His sunglasses have a modern wraparound design that wouldn't be commercially available until the 1960s at the earliest, and the specific style he's wearing looks identical to sports sunglasses from the early 2000s. He's holding what researchers believe is a small portable camera, possibly digital, with a design far too compact for any photography equipment available in 1941. Even his hairstyle is distinctly modern, styled in a way that would have been completely out of place in the 40s. But then researchers started finding more anomalies. When the photograph was examined under high-resolution analysis, they discovered a woman standing several feet away who appears to be wearing footwear with rubber soles and a design pattern inconsistent with 1940s shoe manufacturing. Another figure in the crowd seems to have what looks like a digital wristwatch, showing a rectangular display on their left wrist. In 1941, digital watches didn't exist. The first digital watch wouldn't be invented until 1972. According to Chronos Seven's files, Gold Bridge sits on what future scientists call a temporal fault line, a location where the fabric of space-time is naturally thin and prone to brief overlaps. The files explain that on certain days, when atmospheric conditions and electromagnetic fields align perfectly, two different time periods can briefly occupy the same physical location. Someone from 2004 could literally be standing in the same spot as someone from 1941, visible to each other for just a few minutes before the overlap collapses. The files claim that the young man in the photograph was a hiker named Michael Stevenson, who disappeared while hiking near Gold Bridge in September of 2004. He was never found. According to Chronos Seven's analysis, Stevenson walked directly into a temporal overlap zone and was displaced backwards 63 years. He appeared at the bridge reopening ceremony, completely disoriented, and was photographed before the portal closed. Then, the files suggest, he either remained trapped in 1941 or was pulled back through to another time period entirely. Skeptics have tried everything to debunk this photograph. Some claim it's a hoax, digitally manipulated. Others say the man was just an eccentric local who dressed unusually, but here's what absolutely no one can explain. The photograph is an original print from 1941, verified by multiple photographic experts as having no signs of digital manipulation. The negative exists in Canadian National Archives. And similar photographs from Gold Bridge, taken in different years, show other anachronistic figures that don't belong in their time periods. So, is this photograph genuine proof of time travel? Did a hiker from 2004 really step back into 1941? Are there locations on Earth where time itself becomes unstable, allowing people to cross between eras? And if you were that man, suddenly finding yourself at a bridge opening 63 years in the past, what would you do? Pretty fascinating and absolutely terrifying at the same time. And this is nothing compared to what you're about to see. The Voynich manuscript, a mysterious book written in an undecipherable language and filled with bizarre illustrations of unknown plants and astronomical diagrams, has baffled researchers for centuries. According to Chronos Seven's explosive files, this isn't a coded medieval text. It's a time capsule deliberately sent backward through a time portal from the year 2312. The files claim the manuscript contains detailed information about future botanical science, astronomical events that haven't happened yet, and instructions for creating stable time portals. The reason no one can decode it isn't because it's encrypted, it's because it's written in a language that doesn't exist yet and describes scientific concepts we haven't discovered. The future visitor provides partial translation keys in his files, revealing that certain sections of the manuscript describe the exact locations and activation sequences for natural time portals scattered across Earth. Even more incredible, the files suggest that the person who sent the Voynich manuscript back in time was trying to warn medieval scholars about a catastrophic event that would occur in their future, our present, an event involving the accidental activation of a massive time portal network that could collapse our entire timeline. The coordinates and dates provided in the files point to specific astronomical alignments when these portals will activate, and some of those dates are terrifyingly close. The Voynich manuscript was discovered in 1612 by a book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich at a Jesuit college in Italy. Carbon dating has confirmed that the vellum pages were created sometime between 1444 and 1475, making the book over 500 years old. It contains 240 pages filled with flowing script in an unknown writing system, accompanied by illustrations of plants that don't match any known species on Earth, strange astronomical charts showing configurations of stars that don't exist in our sky, and diagrams of what appear to be biological systems, or maybe machinery. Think about this. For over 600 years, the world's greatest cryptographers, linguists, and codebreakers have tried to decipher this book. Absolutely no one has succeeded. World War II codebreakers who cracked Nazi Enigma machines tried and failed. Modern supercomputers using AI algorithms have tried and failed. The manuscript has defeated every attempt to unlock its secrets. But according to Chronos Seven's files, that's because everyone has been approaching it wrong. They've been trying to decode a language from the past when they should be learning a language from the future. Now, here's where it gets absolutely insane. The files from 2290 contain partial translation matrices that allegedly decode certain sections of the manuscript. According to these translations, the botanical illustrations aren't depicting imaginary plants. They're showing genetically engineered species that won't be created until the 24th century. The astronomical diagrams aren't showing our current solar system. They're mapping planetary positions and celestial events from the year 2312, including a massive solar storm that will align with specific electromagnetic fields on Earth to activate dormant time portals simultaneously. But then comes the truly terrifying part. Chronos Seven's files claim that one section of the manuscript, currently located on pages 75 through 83, contains explicit warnings about what the sender calls the Great Unraveling. According to the translation provided, this is an event where approximately 300 natural time portals across Earth will activate at the exact same moment during a rare astronomical alignment. When this happens, the temporal barriers between different time periods will collapse, causing what the manuscript describes as the merging of all moments into chaos. The files provide specific dates when this alignment will occur. The first opportunity was supposedly in 1999, but it passed without incident. The next window, March 17th, 2031, just a few years from now. The manuscript allegedly contains the exact coordinates of every portal that will activate and detailed instructions for how to seal them before the alignment occurs. Imagine what this means. If the Voynich manuscript really is a message from the future, then someone 300 years from now looked back at our timeline and saw something so catastrophic, so timeline-threatening, that they risked creating a massive paradox by sending a warning backward through time to the 15th century. But here's the question that keeps researchers awake at night. If medieval scholars couldn't read the warning, and we still can't fully decode it, how are we supposed to prevent the catastrophe it's warning us about? Skeptics say this is all nonsense, that the manuscript is either an elaborate medieval hoax, or perhaps a created language for an herbal medical text. But here's what absolutely no one can explain. Why do some of the plant illustrations show cellular structures that wouldn't be discovered until microscopes were invented 200 years later? Why do some astronomical diagrams accurately predict planetary positions that medieval astronomers couldn't have calculated? And why does Chronos Seven's partial translation align perfectly with other warnings found in his files? So is the Voynich manuscript really a time capsule from 2312? Is someone from the future trying to warn us about an impending temporal catastrophe? And if we can't decode the warning in time, are we doomed to experience the Great Unraveling? Extremely creepy and absolutely fascinating at the same time. In July of 1954, a well-dressed Caucasian man arrived at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, carrying a passport from a country that doesn't exist. When customs officials questioned him, he became confused and insisted he was from Taurid, a European country located between France and Spain. He showed them his passport, driver's license, and currency, all bearing the name and emblems of Taurid. He had stamps in his passport from previous trips to Japan and carried business documents from a company that Japanese authorities confirmed existed and had been working with a man matching his description for years. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. When officials checked maps, there was no country called Taurid anywhere in the world. The man became agitated, insisting that Taurid had existed for over 1,000 years. Authorities took him to a hotel room with guards posted outside while they investigated. The next morning, he had vanished from a room with no other exits, and all his documents, including the ones confiscated by customs, had disappeared. According to Chronos Seven's files, this man didn't come from another country. He came from a parallel timeline that briefly intersected with ours through a spontaneous time portal. The files explain that portals don't just connect different times. They can also connect different versions of reality where history unfolded differently. In this man's timeline, Taurid exists and always has. The files provide evidence of similar cases throughout history and warn that as timeline convergence accelerates, these cross-dimensional portal events will become more common. Picture the scene at Haneda Airport on that summer day. Customs officials were processing the usual stream of international travelers when this particular man approached the desk. He was well-groomed, professionally dressed in a business suit, and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had made this trip many times before. His luggage was expensive, his demeanor polite. Everything about him screamed legitimate international businessman. Think about this. There was absolutely nothing unusual about him except for one tiny detail. He came from a country that doesn't exist in our reality. The customs officer asked him the standard questions. Country of origin? The man answered confidently, Taurid. The officer paused. He'd never heard of such a country. He asked the man to point it out on a map. The traveler looked at the map, confused, then pointed to the area between France and Spain where the Principality of Andorra is located in our timeline. Here, he said, growing increasingly frustrated, Taurid has been here for over 1,000 years. How do you not know this? Now, here's where it gets extremely creepy. The officials examined his passport. It wasn't a crude forgery or some amateur fake. It was a genuine, professionally issued passport with official stamps, watermarks, and security features. It showed he had traveled extensively, with entry stamps from multiple countries, including previous trips to Japan. His driver's license matched. His currency was real paper money, perfectly printed with intricate designs and the words Taurid National Bank. Even his business cards listed a company that, when authorities called, actually existed and confirmed they had been working with a man matching his description for the past 3 years. But then, the investigation took a bizarre turn. The man showed officials his checkbook from a Taurid bank. When they tried to verify the bank, it didn't exist. The company he claimed to represent had records of working with someone, but their paperwork showed a completely different home address in a real country. When shown a globe and asked where Taurid was, the man became visibly distressed. He pointed insistently at the spot between France and Spain, unable to comprehend why the maps showed Andorra instead of his homeland. Japanese authorities didn't know what to do with him. He clearly wasn't a typical criminal or con artist. His confusion seemed completely genuine. They decided to detain him overnight in a local hotel while they investigated further. 2 guards were posted outside his room, which was on a high floor with windows that couldn't be opened. The door was the only exit. The next morning, when officials arrived to continue questioning him, they found the room empty. The guards swore absolutely no one had left. The windows were still locked from the inside. The man had simply vanished. But here's what sent chills down everyone's spine. When they checked the customs office, all of his documents, his passport, driver's license, money, everything they had confiscated had disappeared as well. Not stolen, not misplaced, just gone, as if they had never existed in the first place. According to Chronos Seven's files, this was a case of dimensional displacement. The files claim that our reality isn't the only timeline that exists. There are infinite parallel universes where history unfolded differently. In some timelines, Tauward exists instead of Andorra. In others, completely different countries occupy Europe. The files suggest that when dimensional barriers become thin, people can accidentally slip from one reality to another through what they call cross-dimensional portals. Skeptics say this story is an urban legend, that it never really happened. But here's what absolutely no one can explain. Why do Japanese immigration records from 1954 contain references to an unexplained detention case? Why do multiple airport workers from that era remember the incident? And why does Chronos Seven's files contain photographs of documents that allegedly belong to the Tauward man? Documents that show a completely different version of European geography. So, did a man from a parallel universe really slip into our timeline? Are there other versions of Earth where history went differently? And if dimensional portals can open spontaneously, could you wake up tomorrow in a reality where everything is slightly different? A thought that's absolutely fascinating and terrifying at the same time. We need to talk about Versailles one last time, because what Chronos 7 reveals in his final files about this location is absolutely earth-shattering. According to the Visitor from 2290, Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain didn't just accidentally stumble through a time portal in 1901. They were specifically chosen and guided there by future temporal researchers conducting an experiment. The files claim that time travel technology in the 23rd century allows for precise manipulation of historical events, and that both women were unknowingly selected as test subjects to see if 19th century humans could survive brief temporal displacement without suffering psychological collapse. The experiment was considered successful, which is why the files contain detailed follow-up reports tracking both women's lives after the incident. But here's the truly disturbing part. The files suggest that Moberly and Jourdain brought something back with them from 1789, a form of temporal radiation that slowly altered their perception of time for the rest of their lives. They both reported continuing to experience brief visions and time slips throughout their lives, seeing other eras flickering in and out of their vision. The files from the future indicate this was an unintended side effect of portal exposure, and provide medical analysis showing changes in their neural patterns consistent with chronic temporal displacement syndrome, a condition that won't be formally recognized until 2173. Think about what this really means. These two respected academics didn't just witness history. They were deliberately selected as unwitting test subjects by researchers from 300 years in the future. According to Chronos 7's files, temporal scientists in the 23rd century have the ability to identify specific individuals across history whose psychological profiles make them ideal candidates for time displacement experiments. Moberly and Jourdain were chosen because of their mental stability, professional credibility, and the likelihood that they would document their experience without being dismissed as insane. The files contain what they call subject selection criteria. That's absolutely chilling. Future researchers apparently monitored both women for years before the incident, studying their routines, psychological states, and even their planned travel schedules. When Moberly and Jourdain decided to visit Versailles in August of 1901, temporal scientists saw the perfect opportunity. They activated the portal at the precise moment the women would be walking through the gardens, essentially guiding them directly into the temporal rift. Now here's where it gets extremely creepy. The experiment wasn't just about observing what happened during the displacement. It was about studying the long-term effects of portal exposure on human consciousness. The files contain detailed medical reports tracking both women for the rest of their lives, documenting changes that occurred in their brains after exposure to what Chronos 7 calls temporal radiation. According to these reports, both Moberly and Jourdain began experiencing ongoing time slips within months of their Versailles experience. Charlotte Moberly wrote in her private journals, which were never published, about seeing Victorian street scenes overlapping with modern Oxford when she walked to work. She described moments where she would blink, and suddenly the people around her were dressed in 18th century clothing, then blink again and everything returned to normal. She thought she was going mad, but was too afraid to tell anyone except Eleanor. Eleanor Jourdain experienced even more severe symptoms. The files claim she began having what she called temporal headaches, intense migraines accompanied by visions of multiple time periods occurring simultaneously. She reported seeing the past, present, and future all layered on top of each other like transparent photographs. In one diary entry from 1917, she wrote, "I saw the gardens as they are now, as they were during the Revolution, and as they will be in some distant future all at once. The images would not separate. I fear I am losing my mind." But then comes the truly disturbing revelation. The files from Chronos 7 contain neurological scans allegedly taken of both women's brains at various points in their lives using future technology that can analyze past subjects retroactively. These scans show distinct changes in their neural pathways, particularly in areas associated with temporal perception and memory processing. The files describe these changes as temporal contamination, where exposure to time portal radiation fundamentally alters how the brain processes the flow of time. The condition, which won't be officially recognized until 2173, according to the files, is called chronic temporal displacement syndrome. Symptoms include persistent déjà vu, visions of alternate timelines, spontaneous recall of events that haven't happened yet, and the gradual loss of ability to distinguish between past, present, and future. Both women suffered from this for the rest of their lives, never fully understanding what had been done to them. Here's what absolutely no one can explain. How did Chronos 7 obtain medical records and brain scans of women who died decades before modern scanning technology existed? Why do both women's private journals, which were only discovered in university archives in the 1990s, contain descriptions of symptoms that match exactly what the files describe? And if future researchers deliberately experimented on Moberly and Jourdain, how many other historical figures have been unknowingly used as test subjects? So, were Charlotte Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain victims of an unethical experiment conducted by time travelers from our future? Have we all been subjects of temporal manipulation without ever knowing it? Could the strange experiences, the déjà vu, the unexplainable visions we sometimes have, actually be evidence that we've been exposed to time portals? And if future scientists are willing to experiment on people from the past, what does that say about our future selves? A thought that's absolutely terrifying and raises disturbing questions about free will and the ethics of time travel. Now we come to the most shocking revelation of all. The real reason Chronos 7, the mysterious visitor from the year 2290, released these files. According to his final transmission, which was intercepted by multiple independent researchers in 2022, he didn't come back to our time to study history or satisfy curiosity. He came back to deliver a warning. His files reveal that in the year 2047, humanity will successfully create the first stable, controllable time portal. This achievement will be celebrated as our species' greatest scientific breakthrough, opening possibilities for unlimited exploration of past and future. But something will go catastrophically wrong. The files describe what they call the Cascade Event of 2063, when hundreds of time portals opened simultaneously across Earth, creating interconnected temporal pathways that fractured our timeline into countless diverging realities. The visitor claims that by his time in 2290, reality itself has become unstable, with people regularly slipping between different versions of history and entire cities appearing and disappearing as timelines merge and separate. His message is clear and terrifying. The natural time portals scattered throughout Earth's history, the ones documented in all these cases, are not random. They're warnings, glimpses of the chaos that awaits us if we continue down the path toward creating artificial portals. The final file contains specific instructions for preventing the Cascade Event, including coordinates for all major natural portal sites, that must be permanently sealed before 2047. But here's the question that keeps researchers awake at night. If we follow his instructions and prevent the Cascade event, won't that create a paradox where Chronos 7 never exists to warn us? And if that's true, are we already living in a fractured timeline where his warning arrived too late? Think about what Chronos 7 is really saying. In just 23 years, in 2047, scientists will achieve what humanity has dreamed about for centuries: controllable time travel. Imagine the celebration, the Nobel Prizes, the endless possibilities. We could visit any moment in history, witness the construction of the pyramids, attend Shakespeare's first performance, meet our ancestors. It would revolutionize everything we know about science, history, and human existence itself. But according to the files, this triumph becomes humanity's greatest nightmare. The files describe the first portal activation in 2047 as flawless. Scientists successfully sent a probe backward in time to the year 2046 and retrieved it with complete accuracy. Over the next 16 years, the technology was perfected. Portals were opened to ancient Rome, medieval Japan, the American Revolution. Time tourism became reality. Universities established entire departments dedicated to temporal archaeology. Now, here's where it gets absolutely insane. On March 17, 2063, at exactly 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, something went catastrophically wrong. According to Chronos 7's files, a research team attempting to open a portal to the Jurassic period miscalculated the energy requirements. The portal didn't just open, it exploded outward, creating what the files call a temporal shockwave that rippled across the entire planet. Within seconds, every natural time portal on Earth, all the weak points in space-time that had existed for millennia, activated simultaneously. The files describe it in horrifying detail. In Tokyo, people walking down streets suddenly found themselves in feudal Japan. In London, Victorian-era buildings materialized next to modern skyscrapers. In New York, Revolutionary War soldiers appeared in Times Square, completely disoriented, firing muskets at taxicabs. The barriers between different time periods collapsed entirely. But then it got worse. The portals didn't just connect our timeline to different points in our own history, they connected to alternate timelines, parallel universes where history unfolded differently. The files describe people waking up to find their families had different names, their cities had different layouts, their entire memories contradicted by a reality that insisted things had always been different. Imagine going to sleep in a world where you're married with 2 children, then waking up single in an apartment you've never seen, with everyone insisting you've lived there for years. According to Chronos 7, by the year 2290, reality has become what he calls temporally fluid. The files describe his world as a nightmare of constantly shifting timelines. Buildings from different eras occupy the same space, phasing in and out of existence. People regularly encounter versions of themselves from alternate timelines. Entire cities occasionally vanish, replaced by different versions from parallel realities. Historical records contradict each other because history literally keeps changing. The files contain specific instructions for preventing this catastrophe. They list 347 locations across Earth where natural time portals exist, including the exact coordinates we've discussed throughout these cases: Versailles, Goldbridge, the Devil's Sea, Camp Hero, all of them. Chronos 7 claims these portals must be permanently sealed using a specific electromagnetic frequency that creates a temporal barrier. The files provide the exact specifications, the precise energy requirements, everything needed to prevent the Cascade event. But here's what sends chills down everyone's spine. The files were intercepted in 2022, yet absolutely no government or scientific organization has publicly acknowledged receiving them. Either they're ignoring the warning, or they've classified it so deeply that even talking about it is forbidden. Why? Are they planning to build the time portal anyway, believing they can avoid the catastrophe, or do they know something even more disturbing? Some researchers believe we might already be living in a fractured timeline. They point to the Mandela effect, those strange collective memories where millions of people remember events differently than they supposedly occurred. Could these be residual memories from alternate timelines bleeding through? Are the natural time portal cases we've discussed throughout this video actually evidence that the Cascade event already happened and we're living in the aftermath without realizing it? So, is Chronos 7 real? Are we truly headed toward a catastrophic collapse of reality in 2063? Should we be sealing these time portals right now? Or would that create the very paradox that destroys our timeline? And the most terrifying question of all, if you woke up tomorrow in a slightly different reality, would you even know? Would you remember the world as it was? Or would your memories change to match the new timeline? A thought that's absolutely mind-blowing and keeps researchers searching for answers to this very day.